What's your greatest failure is probably one of the most feared questions in the world of interviewing. If you're asked this question and answer it incorrectly, then you've lost the job. By the way, there are some people who do answer this question with, "Oh, I've never failed." If you can make that one fly, then a career in public relations or politics is yours for the asking. But for the rest of us, we need strategies to deal with this most dangerous of questions. Here's some answers which, if you give them in response to that question, will end the process forthwith. Owning up to breaking the law of the land, theft, fraud, or whatever, especially if you're caught at it. Losing your employer a lot of money, especially if it's the company's money and not the customer's. Pranking an employee, a customer, member of the public, doing it online. You're probably caught at it anyway and paid the price. Or owning up to being nasty to colleagues or customers, whether it be by way of sexism, racism, or whatever. A definite no-no in any organisation. However, these answers don't always lose you the interview in 100% of cases. Take breaking the law, for instance. Frank Abagnale Jr., hero of Steven Spielberg's film Catch Me If You Can, was pursued by the FBI for years and then put in prison. And a few years later, he was sprung because they wanted him to help them solve problems that only he knew the answer to. In the world of IT, at the end of the dot-com boom, many companies went under. But some of their executives found jobs elsewhere because their rivals wanted to know how not to make the mistakes that had got those companies into trouble. And finally, investment managers who lost squillions for their clients or their companies turn up occasionally on television and online as investment consultants. So there you have it. But what's the question behind the question? When the interviewer says, "What's something you failed at?" what they really want to know is, will you own up to mistakes? If given feedback, will you learn from that feedback? Can you give examples where something went wrong, you flagged it, you got feedback, you took remedial action, and you recovered? Many employers would far rather have an employee like that than somebody who would hide failure under the carpet. So here's a list of allowable failures, things you could admit to and could well actually enhance your job prospects or your promotion scores. Here's one. Owning up to a failure where you had flagged the failure to your superiors beforehand. This might be something where you were following standard procedure and you said, "I don't think this will give us the result," and where you were overruled. Another one is owning up to failing at something that other people in your organisation failed at, but they had hidden their tracks and you thought you were the only one. Another allowable failure is where you had an idea before its time. You may have been into something like Zoom or Microsoft Teams way before COVID and nobody was interested. Suddenly, somebody else proposes the same idea and get promoted. And lastly, a situation where you stood up because something violated your principles of fair play, equality, inclusion, or whatever, and you paid the price. It's often said, by the way, I think it's a terrible cliche, that there's no such thing as failure. There's only failure to learn. Give me a break. History of your failure follows you around in any organisation you've ever worked for. Well, that's true in my case. I've failed at a number of things and they still get talked about. However, it's possible to recover from failure because everybody fails at some point or another, but not everybody learns. So if you are going to fail, fail as early in your career as possible. get feedback, apply it, and make sure the same thing doesn't happen again. We owe it to the world to bring a better quality of failure leading to learning to the organisations that we work in. Good luck with your interview.